If it's Wednesday, it's Meet the Press Daily, live from the spin room of the Ziff Opera House in the Adrian Arsh Center for the Performing Arts of Miami-Dade County, ahead of the first primary debate of the 2020 election season, and it's right here. Only one place. Well, a bunch of places, but only one big network. MSNBC, NBC, Telemundo. So guess what? Cue the election music. Makes me so happy. This makes me so happy. It's my hometown. Miami was always made fun of when I was a kid, and guess what? We are the opening act for national politics. I'm pretty proud of that. Anyway, in just under 4 hours from now, my NBC News colleagues and I will be posing the first questions of the debate season to the first 10 candidates who qualified. And here they are again in the podium order for tonight. With Elizabeth Warren, this group's leader, and she's center stage. Notably not on stage until tomorrow night is the party's other frontrunner, Joe Biden. So without giving away any secrets, let's break down what to watch for tonight. I'll be joined this hour by a lot of other NBC News people who will be watching what to watch for since I'm moderating. The road warriors are with me, who have been on the trail with these candidates for months, in some cases years. Plus the campaign surrogates, campaign managers, strategists, and activists will be stopping by, all of them here in Miami. A packed hour kicking off the biggest first night in American politics of any presidential season that I've been involved in yet. So joining me here at the table, Casey Hunt, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent and host of KCDC. Two of our road warriors, NBC News political reporters, Vaughn Hilliard and Ali Vitale. Okay, Casey, what are you watching for tonight, and how likely will they mix it? How likely will they want to mix it up? Obviously, I'm not going to, moderators, we always want some interaction.
You guys are going to try your best, right. I'm sure.
But who will want to?
Well, I think that the stakes are highest for Elizabeth Warren tonight. I mean, she is going to be at center stage. She also, some reporters who have covered her for a long time sometimes point out that she is sometimes at her best when she's the underdog, when she's scrapping from behind. And so this is going to be an interesting and different role for her to play as the front runner being up on stage, potentially the target for those standing around her. And I think to a certain extent that's going to be decided, whether they're going to try and make some news by, or having that breakout moment by going after somebody else, or if they're going to spend the time trying to introduce themselves. I think that's the question that every one of these campaigns and candidates is going to have to answer for themselves, especially on this first night. All
right, Ali and Vaughn, you've been talking to the candidates, not just the Warren team, but the non-Warren folks. What is the strategy tonight?
I think for the non-Warren folks, it's really a question of introduction. Like, I know for her, it's a question of if they will try to attack her. But the thing that I've been hearing consistently from strategists at other campaigns is a lot of people haven't tuned into this election yet. And really, this is a chance to get these folks on people's radars and then hopefully getting a little bit higher in the polls. And so I imagine from people like Amy Klobuchar, for example, she just came out with that first 100 days, 100 plus bullet points that she would pursue if she were elected president. I know Tim Ryan is someone who I think could have a big moment. He's got this ability to sometimes rile up a crowd. So there are a few people who I'm watching for on that stage that could also break out.
Vaughn, who's going to be the hardest person for me to discipline? And I say this today, positive, like myself or Lester or Savannah or Rachel, whatever. Like, how is it? Who's going to try to make our jobs difficult?
I think it's the emotion that is at play. So much of this politics is about the emotion, right? And I think we've been to enough campaign events where if you go to Cory Booker, to what extent at a campaign event for Cory Booker, it's kind of like a church revival about hope, about defiant love. If you go to Elizabeth Warren event, it's all about the fight, taking on the NRA, taking on the big corporations. To what extent are these guys going to be able to emote those sort of emotions? And one other point to what Ali was saying, there was a Morning Consult poll that came out yesterday. For example, Jay Inslee, the Washington state governor, 50% of this Democratic electorate has never heard of Jay Inslee before. This is his shot.
And that's this is this balance. Introduction, Casey, and a realization that there's a bunch of candidates that are hoping to knock off one of these candidates off this stage and get on a debate stage next month. I mean, for some, this may be the one and only shot they have.
I mean, it's an incredibly difficult calculation to make because on the one hand, Jay Inslee, you point out, a lot of people haven't heard of him. We know him as a candidate who has risen completely on his climate change platform. Do you take that to the voters, or do you try to draw a contrast with somebody else, perhaps get a moment that we're playing over and over again on TV? They're all going to have to make that choice.
Here's the other challenge about tonight, and frankly, look, as these weren't our rules to have back-to-back nights. But how long does tonight last? What is the shelf life of tonight's performance when you have another one coming tomorrow night?
At least I think on our airways starting tomorrow, but then we should expect to begin to hear from the likes of, look, Kamala Harris has been waiting for this moment since the outset. I mean, a lot of these candidates, they announced back in January. Right. And so suddenly, if you're Kamala Harris, you get on that stage there tomorrow night, and by Friday, you've been able to prosecute that case against these guys.
So what you're saying is you think it's a huge disadvantage to not be on night one and not on night two? I mean, that's the way you're classifying that. I mean, do some of these campaigns worry about the shelf life of this debate?
I'm not sure. I think if you're Elizabeth Warren and you're the only one of the top 5 in the top 5 pollers who's alone on the stage, the ideal scenario is getting everyone on night 2 to respond to something that you said on night 1, and that's how you extend the shelf life. Who knows what these viral moments are going to be, but I would say that these news cycles move pretty fast. Yeah. Things are fleeting.
I would say this, though. I mean, 2 months ago, had we said we're going to have one debate night that's going to have Booker, Klobuchar, Beto, and Warren, nobody would have said that's
a blockbuster.
Nobody would have said that's that's the B debate. I think we don't know in a year from now which one of these nights will truly feel like the B night or the A night in defense of what's happening.
Here's one thing I'll say, Chuck. I do think the GOP debates in 2016 are instructive in this way, right? Donald Trump dominated that stage. He knocked out candidates one at a time. This is a chance to show whether you are capable of doing something similar, and you'll have that chance just as much tonight as you will tomorrow.
All right, there's one big story that all the candidates have essentially embraced as the big story of today and of this moment, and of course, it's what's happening with this migrant crisis. And a warning to our viewers: the photo that I'm about to show is very graphic and very disturbing, but this in some ways is a galvanizing photo. It shows the body of a migrant father and his 23-month-old daughter, who both drowned while trying to cross the Rio Grande River into Texas. A number of campaigns today has visited the country's largest child migrant detention center, which is in nearby Homestead, Florida. That's just about 40 miles south of us here, including Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Bernie Sanders' wife, Jane, today. Bernie Sanders, I think, is going later in the week. Eric Swalwell visited earlier this week. O'Rourke, Sanders himself, de Blasio, Gabbard, Harris, Castro, Hickenlooper, Gillibrand, Buttigieg, and Williamson all are expected to visit, I think, by the end of the week. Homestead has become, it's here. I mean, this is one of the reasons I keep telling people, look, Miami is the perfect place to start this debate, because it either geographically touches every issue that is on the forefront here, emotionally touches every issue, and this is one of them.
It also gives these candidates a chance to live their policy in real life, right? I mean, some of them are in the Senate, some of them are in the House. They're contending with this immigration debate in real time during their day jobs. For someone like Elizabeth Warren, for example, she just put out a plan a few days ago to ban private prisons. This is a chance for her to literally go to one of them that's run in part by Caliburn.
This is a private shelter, yeah,
exactly.
in some ways, yeah.
And say, this is exactly the kind of thing that I would stop if I were president.
But it also makes it tough for those that have been around, Vice President Joe Biden. Yeah. That record, again, you can't run from it with the Obama administration and the hundreds of thousands of deportations that took place under that administration. That is suddenly, you talk about looking forward in the Democratic Party addressing where you go from there, but if you're Joe Biden, it's hard not to be the focus of that.
I mean, Chuck, this photograph has just, I think, crystallized for so many people something that we have talked about so many times, that, you know, runs on the front pages of our newspapers, sometimes to the back pages, and it really just hits so close to home. I mean, I certainly can't look at it without being moved. And I think what it does in the context of this debate is, first of all, it shows that everyone on this stage is going to frankly draw a contrast with this president and those policies. On the flip side of that, you know, this president ran and got elected on making this an emotional issue for people by dividing people. And, you know, this pushes immigration to the front yet again. Is that a dangerous...
I was just going to say that's an interesting political take there. I'm going to pause the conversation, but in some ways you almost think that the president would prefer immigration to be a dominant topic, wouldn't he? In his own political.
I mean, it is terrible to think of it in that way, considering this photograph. But I mean, he clearly has tried to turn the conversation over and over again.
And he was shown the photograph today, and he says, "Yeah, so Democrats should change the law." It's like unmoved by this in that sense. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. All right, guys, appreciate it.
Thanks,
hey, man, this is like when you get to have the Super Bowl in the first.
I can't believe we're already back here. I got to tell you, with the election music.
We're already in and all that stuff.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.